Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell in the upper right-hand corner. Follow me on all forms of social media. Check me out at thatdrummerguy.com and enjoy the following presentation. One, two. Hello?
Hey Josh, it's Gus.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, it's all good, man. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much for taking time to do this interview.
A pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Well, of course, we're here to talk about your brand new album, Fearless, which came out through AFM last week. How does it feel to finally have this album out for a week now?
Feels good. It's nice to finally have it out. And I mean, you know, when you put a record, you know, you're always anxious to see how it's received and what people think and how what the critics will say and all that stuff. It's a little bit of that excitement and anxiety a little bit, and then once it's finally out, I mean, the real work starts, which means, you know, you got there and you got to play and promote it and just hope people like it, you know.
And what has been that perception of the album so far?
Well, the main verdict from what I hear from both critics and the fans, that, you know, and the feedback that I get, people have told me that it's my best solo work so far from all three albums. I mean, I've seen some stuff online that, again, people didn't get into it and they thought it sucked and stuff, but, you know, that always happens. But for the most part, it's been really good.
I'm glad to hear that, and I'm definitely in that camp thinking that it is some of the finest work that you've put on record to date. I mean, I love the versatility of the album. I mean, when it gets heavy, it gets very heavy. When it gets melodic, it gets super melodic, and I love the fact that with every solo album, you're able to showcase yourself in all these great different ways, and with this one, it's just, I really love the versatility that's going on there, and it all makes cohesive sense in the album.
Cool, man, thanks. Yeah, I think the word you used, cohesive, is that's the key word here on this record. This is what we were aiming for, basically, and that's why there's a lack of guests this time around. We just wanted to have a certain flow throughout the record, and yeah, you know, just have I mean, there's obviously different colors throughout the records and different vibes, but all through a certain flow. And yeah, I think it was that was a conscious effort, basically, you know, just to really what's the word? Just to really trying to find what I'm going to say here. I mean, define what my sound would be as a solo artist.
And with that, I mean, was that what you were thinking with when you were writing the album, or did it just kind of flow together that way?
What's that?
When you were writing Fearless, I mean, did you have like this mindset of how you wanted the album to be, or did it come out naturally when you started the songwriting process?
There was a little bit of a certain mood that I went into this. Like, yeah, you know, like I probably was gonna experiment a little bit less on this record than the last two. I mean, the first two records we gave it a shot to do some more. You know, we were searching for those radio singles and see if, you know, we could get on active rock and see if we just try different things, you know, and then there would be like all the more metal stuff. But this time around, I was like, well, chances are you're not gonna get on radio. You're not gonna have a radio hit. And you know, I came to terms, of course. I'm like, well, I'm a heavy metal guitar player, so I should probably do what I'm doing best. And you know, it was once you come to terms with all that, it's a little bit easier to get the creativity flowing out, you know.
And I'm glad to hear that too. I mean, you know, it's just like it's very important. I mean, when you're in the position like you are, I mean, to write songs that you're going to be able to enjoy now and enjoy them for years to come, and also know that you're able to keep your integrity in check. So when you do make an album like Fearless, where you just go making the songs that you want to make and try to make it this cohesive effort, not experimenting as much, but just trying to make it versatile and cohesive. I mean, I really love the approach that's going on there, and I think it made for a very quality album.
Thanks, man. Thanks. I mean, I think, you know, every now and then every artist should take risks, and you should try out different things, you know. And for me, going solo was just about taking that risk initially and just trying out different things, you know. But at the end of the day, you are going to sort of return to your roots, you know. So, I mean, I went out, I did that, I gave it a shot, I collaborated with a few people, I got that out of my system, and this time around I was like, well, you know, I'm pretty good at, you know, being in a metal band, so I know how to put a metal band together and make a metal record. So I guess that's what we did. Of course, it's a kind of record that has a it flirts between modern metal and a lot of retro elements as well, because the hard rock background is there as well in my playing. You can hear that clearly. So, but yeah, for the most part, you can hear my what I'm mostly. You can hear me in my comfort zone, and that's basically playing heavy metal.
And with that, I mean, with the wide array of collaborations and bands that you've been a part of, guest spots, and of course, with this being your third solo album, how do you feel now with it being your third solo album? I mean, how is that comfortability for you when you are making a new solo album?
Well, on this solo record, when I started out, I didn't know how exactly it was going to turn out, because like I said, there was no specific collaborator on each record. I mean, on the first record, I was writing some songs with Matt Slevin, and then the second record with a singer called Jacob Bunton. And now this time, these people were not so available, obviously, and I was kind of looking for how I'm going to do this. And I had just gotten out of this record, the Firing record, working with Dennis Ward, and I just thought I would send him some of my solo ideas and see what he thinks. And he put some vocals down, and we just basically started writing. And I enjoyed doing the way we did the last Firing record. So we basically sort of kept the winning team together. And so me and him just went ahead and completed the writing together. We co-produced it and recorded it together. And then obviously he mixed it, and he ended up playing bass and singing on the record. The whole idea was basically, as we went into this, to just keep it simple, simplify it. And that's why I chose not to have guests and mess around so much with that stuff this time. And that was the whole process basically. And even the writing stuff happened. It happened very sporadically. We didn't really sit down and try to nail out 10 tracks in 2 weeks or something. We would write a song here and there between my tour breaks. It was all very easy and laid back, actually.
And it's so great to hear that, too. I mean, with it being more of a relaxed feeling this time around, working with someone that that you can work compatibly with. You get someone like Will Hunt being able to lay the drums down on it, and just having this very small, cohesive lineup to be able to record and just put out a solid album. And sometimes that's all you need.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes, it can be that simple. Because, when you go into something like this, especially when I went into the first solo record, I would hear ideas left and right. Oh, you should do this and that, and you should work with this guy and that guy. And then, by now, obviously I'm building a little bit of a catalog, and I've done a few tours, and I see what material works out best out there with my fans, and what didn't work out. And you get a better idea as you discover yourself as well, because it is a new project after all. If you ask me about Firing, I know exactly what's happening there, because we've been around forever, and we've done 8 albums, and we know what our fans want to hear. But this is a different situation. So once I've tried out a few things this time, it was a little bit easier to sort of get back to basics. And like I said, just get a killer drummer, a good bass player, a good co-writer, and then just keep the team pretty close, pretty selective, and then just go in there and make a killer record.
So with that said, of course, with the album being out a full week now, and of course, you doing all this great press, that's everything going on for the album. What's going to be going on next for you?
Well, the tour is going to start. I've already been doing a few dates out in Scandinavia. Played some gigs in Sweden and Denmark, and next week I'm going out to Germany, play a few shows there. Then I'm going to do a couple of festivals in the summer. Not a whole lot, though. I'm probably going to spend the summer mostly at home, but there is a few weekends that I'm going to be out there and playing. And then the main tour starts actually in September, so I'm going to come out to America and then continue back in Europe and UK.
Oh, that's so awesome to hear. I'm glad to see that the album is going to be getting that proper promotion. And I'm also glad to see that you're kind of taking the summer to just do some select dates rather than just going full force onto it, and then just either having to worry about next Firewind or whatever the next musical endeavor that you go with. You're able to take it a little more easy this summer, and then when fall comes around, getting back into that full touring.
Yeah. you know, it's like since you cannot do all the festivals and then go out there and do all the club tours as well. So it was going to be one or the other. And I mean, last summer was pretty busy, and most of the year had been pretty busy. So yeah, just taking a break this summer was, yeah, it's a good thing. And then basically lay out the plan and set up the plan for the rest of the year, and go out there and play as much as possible, basically.
And I imagine it's also got to be fun for you too. I mean, with being able to promote a new album with the set list, you're able to incorporate some new songs and switch some things around. I imagine that's gonna be fun.
What's that? To incorporate?
Being able to incorporate new songs from Fearless into the set. I mean, it's got to be fun to be able to switch things up a bit.
Yeah, it's cool because we've already played a few new songs even before the album was out, and I mean, there's a lot of good material that would work out well live. I mean, we've already been doing 4 tracks without even the album. I mean, we've released a couple of singles, but we played like 4 songs already off the album. And I think once I start doing longer sets, and yeah, I would like to add even a few more. It seems to me that this album is going to have a lot of songs that are going to be staying in the set for quite a while, and it's cool to spice it up, play some new material.
Oh yeah, and it's also great, you know, it's just like with every subsequent solo album, you're able to focus that much more on your solo material and being able to show off everything from the first album to the current album, and, you know, like the more solo albums that are coming to be, being able to show off that whole discography of your solo work, and it's great to see how that's all getting built up right now, and it's just keeps getting bigger and better.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, you know, you're building a catalog, you know, so, I mean, when I had the first album, I couldn't go out there and play the whole thing, so I would do like, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 songs, and then the rest I had to fill it up with something else, so I would do some covers and maybe some firewind material or something, and now it's getting to the point where, yeah, I have enough material from 3 records to, you know, to put a headline set, and it's kind of cool, you know, or even if you want to, if I'm going to be doing some support tours, you know, I can keep it nice and tight with this, and then just kind of like pick and choose the highlights from each record.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of covers, of course I noticed on Fearless, you did cover a classic song from Dire Straits. Where did the idea come from to cover Money for Nothing?
I don't know, man. It just came out of the blue, really. It was just one of those songs was on my radar. I mean, I grew up listening to it. It's just a classic riff, you know, it's just a classic track. And I think it's one of the better Dire Straits songs. And it's an amazing rock band, but I'm not sure if all metalheads would dig that. But I mean, arguably that is one of the all-time classic songs, you know. So I just had this idea of really making a heavy version of it and playing the riff like on the lower strings, and then playing the song on half tempo, and basically that's what it was. And just went and had fun in the studio from there, basically.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see your take on it. I mean, when you're able to take a song that is such a classic rock staple from a band like Dire Straits and being able to just add your own little niche to it, I mean, it's really cool to see what you added to it and just to make it your own.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Oh yeah, not a problem. Yeah, and that's one thing I've always loved about, like, when you do play a song that you didn't write, so whether you're doing a cover or you're playing someone else's music or whatever the case is, I mean, even if you're playing it note for note, I can still hear that it's you playing it, and it's great to see that no matter what it is, you're able to incorporate yourself to it, of course stay true to the music, but just trying to make the songs your own, and that is such an important thing to be able to accomplish.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, when you play whatever songs you're playing, it's gonna be with your own gear and your own sound, and you know what I mean. It's gonna be, you know, I have my own tone or whatever it is, and it's gonna sound in a certain way if it comes out of your fingers. So even like you say, even if you play it note for note, it's still gonna have a little bit of that personal stamp on it. I think that's important. You know, I think it's happening with. I don't know if it happens with everybody, but I guess that's how it should be. You know.
Oh yeah, and speaking of that, of course, with writing your third solo album, I mean, did you switch anything up as far as like your gear or your guitar setup or anything like that for the recording?
Well, I had a couple of different amps during the recording. I had my signature Black Star amp, but I also used like an EVH to combine and have different tones. And I had a couple of more guitars this time. I had my new signature Jackson guitars, but I had, you know, they have active pickups, but then I also used like a Charvel guitar with the passive pickups for some of the cleaner or crunchier tones. for the more like atmospheric parts or breakdown parts in, I don't know, songs like Don't Tread on Me, or I use like a Strat. I have like a 1961 reissue Strat that I use in some parts on Big City. So I use a couple of guitars, not a whole lot though. The main tones are for my own Jackson guitars.
Yeah, and it's great to see like with you actually using your signature models, and just like for the right moments being able to expand upon it. Either switching up the pickups or switching up the amps or whatever the case is, and just making sure that you do get the right tones for what you're looking for on the album.
Yeah. I mean, it has to be, and I always experiment with that because I do a lot of pre-production in my home studio, so I know beforehand, before I go in the studio, I know exactly if I'm going to need a different tone. I know that, if I use like some sort of plug-in at home or something, and I might experiment with that. Yeah, like this time we went to recreate those tones. That's why I brought in a couple of more guitars. Yeah, it's cool. It's like you have a palette of different sounds throughout the album, but I mean, the main tone for like 80 or 90% of the time, it's my standard kind of distorted heavy tone.
And I imagine that's also what you're going to be using as far as all the current and upcoming live shows as well, is the Jackson and Black Star combination, right?
Yeah. That's always been like the combo right there. Yeah, I have a few stomp boxes, but yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be taking other guitars out on tour with me, but I can pretty much emulate all those tones with simply. I mean, and the thing is, I don't use a lot of presets. Like I play a lot with, I roll down the volume knob if I want to have a more crunchier tone, a bit more old school, where you kind of like roll back the volume knob and go back on the gain, and then so I play a lot like that. It's more of a 70s kind of technique. A lot of the guys did that, back then. Instead of having different presets and different kind of fucking rack mount units and stuff like that. I'm not into that.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, there's less room for error when it comes to that. I mean, when it's just coming down to, of course, having some pedals, but, just like focusing on the guitar and the amp and, just making sure if all of that works, I mean, there's less room for stuff to go wrong live.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. The less stuff you have, I mean, the more stuff you have on your signal chain, the more chances you have of having malfunctions and then stuff to go wrong, really. So keeping it simple, like my pedal board is only like 3 pedals, like a wide, delay, and a chorus. That's it.
Yeah, and you prove it. I mean, every time that I've ever seen you play live, no matter what lineup that you're playing with, no matter what style of music that you're playing, I mean, you're always able to get such amazing tone and style out of every combination that you do, and you're able to do it from such a smaller setup compared to what other guitarists do, and you're able to prove that it's just in what you're playing and how you play it, rather than everything that you have.
Wow, thanks, Ben. Thanks. Cool. I'm glad somebody recognizes. Yeah, thanks.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean that's what I love about seeing like every time that you're playing. I mean, it's like, again, like I was talking about with Fearless, with the versatility that's going on. I mean, with the setup that you got going on, and you're able to do so much of this with just a more simplified setup compared to what a lot of people do with either like the digital amplifiers or all these different rack mounts and stuff like that. You can just prove that if you have a guitar amp and just the right amount of pedals that you need, you can get the job done and make it sound fantastic.
Oh yeah, I mean look at somebody like, I mean I look up to people like Jeff Beck. He goes out there and he can get so many different guitar sounds and tones out of his Strat, and he just handles, like, he uses everything he can get out of the guitar, with his whammy bar and the tremolo bar and the volume knob. He plays so much with all those things, and you see it's just a man and a guitar. There's like nothing there. It's just him and an amp and a guitar. So that's I always like that stuff. I don't even use a tremolo, so but yeah, it's pretty amazing, like, guys, what Jeff Beck does. How he makes a guitar squeal and all those noises just with a tremolo, and then not even really using any pedals.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's like, of course there's a time and place for all of that stuff, and there are musicians who really can pull off such really cool stuff, being able to use all that technology, all these different pedals and stuff like that, but sometimes you don't need it. And, that's what I really love about all the projects that you've been a part of, with the setup that you have, and being able to show that off again in Fearless.
Depends on the music you do. I mean, if you're Steve Vai, you will need a lot of fucking sounds and different effects, because it's a whole it's a big theatrical performance he does, and he needs a lot of stuff. So it depends what kind of player you're looking at and what kind of style it is, and I mean, for my stuff, it's just straightforward heavy metal, and then I mean, there's a lot of dynamics in my music as well. So, but I'm able to get up with pretty simple gear, really.
So, in speaking of that as well, I mean, with being a musician, I mean, one of the great things about being a musician is always constantly learning new things about your instrument. So, is there anything like you're currently working on or trying to improve about your playing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always working on technique and stuff like that. I'm working on everything, really, man. Phrasing, like, bending vibrato stuff, improving picking techniques, I get into all kinds of different things all the time, and just try to add a little bit here and there. And once I will sit down and I'll master some sort of a technique or whatever, like a new picking pattern, for example. And then, like, the next step is really to try and incorporate it when I do it live. So more like trial and error. I just try to probably improvise sometime when I'm on stage, and then see if it comes out right, and see how I can fit all these new things that I come up with. If and when I do come up with something, how I can fit it into my phrasing when I'm improvising. And sooner or later, that kind of stuff either find their place into your vocabulary, or they never fit in, and you just abandon that. So. And that's a cool thing about experimenting with the guitar,
Yeah, and you never know what's going to be inspiration, even if it's like a scale or a method or some kind of mode that you never actually use in a project. You never know that could be used as like inspiration for something else. So, always constantly expanding your mind, learning these new ideas, and trying out new things, even if it never gets recorded or played live or whatever. You never know what's going to inspire you to keep going.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. Because like I say, I mean, it might be a thing that you might not use live, but maybe at some point it'll make a cool new riff or a cool new idea or a melody for a future song. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Well, once again, Gus, thank you so very much for taking all this time to be able to talk to me about everything that's going on in your world right now. And of course, talking about the brand new album Fearless, which is available now through AFM. And once again, I just got to say, it's one of my favorite albums that you've put out to date so far. I love everything that's going on there, from the super great heavy moments on there, the melodic moments, seeing what you can do with Dire Straits. And I'm imagining in my head how a lot of this stuff is going to translate live. And the fact that things are in the works and will be happening for the end of summer into fall, where you're going to be coming back here to North America and playing. I'm very excited to see how all these great new songs are going to translate live and everything that you got coming up in the future.
Thanks, man. Wow, thank you so much. Where in the States are you?
I'm actually in Minnesota.
Okay. I'm not sure if we're going to come to Minnesota, but I hope we will. It will be great to be back there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, ever since the first time I saw you with Firewind playing in Minneapolis, I've just got so excited to be able to see you every time that you've come back here. And, whether it's this tour, the next tour, or if you come back with Firewind, or whatever project or band that you're a part of,
man.
I just can't wait to see what you're going to be doing next.
Cool, man. Thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh, not a problem. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to mention that I hadn't brought up yet?
I don't know. I think we covered it all, more or less. I guess. I can't remember anything right now, but yeah.